Connections build communities, and Rachel Andras is all about connecting good people with good people. Listening to each other's stories and experiences could open up hope for someone else. She believes sharing not only empowers you, but those who listen may feel like they're not on an island alone. Rachel is about inspiring change and seeks to awaken potential in others. Each week, she interviews friends who've chosen to live their life with purpose and meaning. It'll be fun, encouraging, and a wide diversity of beautiful humans. You're invited to be inspired and hopes to spark the light inside of you. We hope you enjoy it. Here's Rachel.
Circle of talking, but I'm excited to have Lauren here of Outdoorsy Diva, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, Rachel. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, I know for us, I reached out to you, I think, on Instagram was really how we've connected, not only from your beautiful photos, but from you sharing things in your life. Like, I know the first thing that I connected, connected me, where I was like, oh, I need to send her a message. You know, how you just have those moments, was when you were traveling a couple years ago now, maybe. And it was right at the beginning of COVID, and you were sharing that you have some anxiety around travel. And for me, that's how we connected. But I guess I want people to know what Outdoorsy Diva, Lauren, I want people to know what you do and who you are. So please share.
Hello. So I am Lauren Gay, and I am the creator of the adventure travel brand Outdoorsy Diva. So with that comes a travel blog, as well as a podcast where I share adventures and inspiration, and as well as Instagram, where I'm a digital creator, and TikTok. And then my whole mission is just to inspire people to step out of their comfort zones and really change their lives by embracing adventure, embracing travel, embracing nature as therapy and healing. And then in particularly, I'm focused on exposing, Black women particularly to just this space of adventure, travel, and outdoors and nature, because it's such an underrepresented group, when we look at media and marketing. And so that's really my mission. I'm just out here trying to live my best life and authentically. And then by doing so, inspire other people who connect with me on whatever level to do the same, whether it's because they're also moms, they're single moms, they're empty nesters, they're older, I guess we're called geriatric millennials now. I hate that term, but that's what we are.
We're not supposed to label ourselves. Don't forget that. We can brand ourselves, but not label ourselves. Yeah.
However people, identify and find a way that they connect with me, that's really my mission. So that's me.
Wow. So much goodness. And you are making a huge difference. I mean, you are impacting a lot of people's lives, and you are encouraging them to step into their best life. And that's important. I love personal development. I love all of that. And I think it's not about creating some new person. It's creating that, it's really unveiling the real person. And so, yeah, as you go on adventures, you get clarity on more of who you are and what you do. And as you breathe into nature, I'm so glad that you see that as, a growth space. I mean, I think nature is so healing in so many ways. And I know you and I connected, I think originally from the United Women on the Fly, which is a women's fly fishing group. Maybe we just kind of crossed paths, or I saw you in there, or I don't know how it connected, but I mean, you're in Florida and I'm in Oregon. So this is the funny, goofy thing about the internet. But But you're my friend, and I am, and one day we'll meet in person. And
I know one day, and it's funny. I actually forgot exactly how we got connected, and you reminded me. So it was a year ago. It was mid-pandemic-ish, I guess, because we're in year two. But I actually had a trip to Antigua,
yeah,
and it was last December, and it was my first time since the panini, of being in an airport, being around that many people,
yeah,
getting on a flight. And I had shared something about having some anxiety, just about I hadn't been around that many people, in some months. And you reached out, and you were actually very encouraging, to me in that moment that I was sitting there waiting on my flight. And so I really appreciate that. You are
Mm.
such a beautiful soul.
Oh, thank you. Well, I know that feeling of feeling alone in those emotions, and I know that feeling of having someone, either, or for me, I had, during a panic attack that I've had. I remember reaching out to a friend of mine, and he was just right on it, like, hey, let's just walk it through. And so I could sense it in what you were sharing, and I just wanted to say, hey, we got this. We got this, because you're not sitting on an island by yourself. Well, Antigua, I mean, you are, you're not, you're in the airport at the time, but it's you're not alone. Even though it may feel like the chaotic world is all around us, it's like, we're going to get to the other side of this feeling in a few minutes. Just let's talk it through, right? So I love that. I do love
That
that.
is so that's how beautiful, right? That's like the beauty of the way we can connect. And it's like, even though I set out to create this community, right, to help other people and inspire other people, it has given back to me
Oh,
just
yeah.
as much as I have poured into it. And so that was definitely one of those moments that I was like really appreciative, just to see everything kind of come full circle,
Well, you do give such value out there. And for I mostly have connected with you like through the Instagram world, which is such an interesting platform. You've really created a beautiful community of people, but mostly of adding yourself, your true self, of adding value to what's most important to you. And I think that, again, allows other people to do the same. And that's what we all need to be doing, right? We're designed to shine our lights and figure out what that is, and then shine it in the world. I think that's important. Um, so, I know you have had lots of transitions, because this isn't something you've done forever. I mean,
Right.
this is what did you do kind of before you went, because is this full time now for you?
Not anymore. Well, yes and no. I'll say that. So I started, just the blog was actually first, the website. And it was just because I was sharing things on like Facebook about adventures with my son when he was younger.
Yeah.
And people were really like, oh, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know about this. And I kind of looked for people who looked like us, who were doing these outdoor things and these adventurous things. And at the time, this was 8 years ago, and it looked very different. And I wasn't finding people, really that match, my community and my background, my ethnicity, my values, my culture. You didn't see it, that were kayaking and camping and hiking. And it's not to say that people weren't doing it, but it wasn't being broadly shared, and I wasn't finding that community online. And so I decided that, I met another girl who was a blogger, and she's like, why don't you start a blog? And I was like, okay, sure, let's start a blog, and it was really without much intention other than to inspire. That's been the mission from the beginning. So that was 8 years ago, but it was as a hobby, it wasn't as a business. And then I went to a conference a year later, and that's when my eyes were open, and I was like, Oh, this is like a whole thing here.
It's an
Okay.
opportunity, a possibility. It's a
It
world of
is.
hope of what you can create. And I love that you identified yourself as a creator in so many ways. And that's such a beautiful, whew, what a great business title, right? Like, or any
It
title.
is.
Like, you're a creator of your life, of your son's life, all of those things.
And I just didn't know what was possible with it until that conference. It really opened my eyes. And I met some great people who, took me under their wing and kind of showed me the ropes and how things work. And so then I was like, okay, well, let's become a business then. Let's make this a thing. And it was still just on the side though, and as a hobby. I'm still working. I work by profession. I'm an IT professional. I've worked in various capacities in software development for the last 18 years. And so it just continued to grow as we continue to do things and explore. Um, and it wasn't, and I had a desire to figure out how I could do it full time. But, as a single mom and all these other things, you don't necessarily think you have the time and that you can, and it's not the right time. So I was just kind of biding my time. I was working it, building it, still laying the foundation and growing steadily, but slowly. And then 2020 came. And I got laid off right at the start of the pandemic. And so it was like, okay, not a great time for that. Companies were, kind of put a freeze on because nobody really knew what to expect, what
All
this
the
was going to look
uncertainty in the
like.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, there was so much uncertainty. So it was not a job market at the time. As skilled as I was, there was just, the world was on pause. And so I had invested in myself just a few months prior, and gone through this whole 8-week program with a business coach because I wanted to get more serious about laying that foundation and what it would look like to go full time and kind of map out a plan. Well, I didn't get the luxury of time I thought I was going to have. And it was like, well, you're not working.
Right in the swimming pool.
You got, like you got some severance, you got some savings, and you have the one thing you said you didn't have: time. And so I just started to work the plan and use what I had learned to see if I could do it. And again, this is a pandemic where I talk about travel, right? And we can't travel, but I talk about the outdoors and adventure and nature. And so that was kind of the only thing you could do was nature. And so it allowed me to be at a really, really, a huge advantage because that's what my content was already about. Yeah. And so that was kind of how that happened. So I worked it full time for up until this past June, actually. It was difficult. And I was sustaining myself, but it was not at where I needed to be just yet. And so I got an opportunity to re-enter the workforce that would not make me compromise what I had already been doing and the opportunities I had already created and the income I was generating. And so that's why it's hard for me to say, do you do it full time? Well, yes and no, because I haven't given up any of the things I was doing. Like I've still been traveling. I'm still doing the TV segment that I do. I'm still doing all the things and meeting my quarterly income goals. And now I'm working full time. And so it's kind of like, okay, all right. So I can be comfortable and not worry about the money part right now. So that way I can focus and grow. But at least I know what it looks like. I can see it, and so it's like, I'm like this close to being where I gotta be.
And it's possible.
Yeah,
it's possible. And all of those obstacles that you ran into, and you're not alone there. Like all the obstacles, they come there for a reason, I feel. And they, all of that, even though you were pushed in this uncomfortable space to, oh goodness, what am I going to do next? that was such a wonderful gift to you, right? Where you could.
It was.
Mhm.
I call 2020 my Phoenix year,
Right.
because, for me, I was very blessed not to lose anyone in my family to COVID. We lost one close friend, but I didn't lose anybody in my immediate family. I didn't get ill or
Good.
sick, and I have asthma, so I was very
Yeah.
concerned
Yeah.
about a respiratory virus, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but losing your job when you've been in a career gainfully employed for 17 straight years,
Right.
that is a tremendous amount of loss that I did have to, work through with my therapist. She's like, no,
It's a
like
grieving thing too.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
you should grieve, like
Yeah.
you did lose something. And
Right.
so it felt like everything burned down right to the ground. That's why I call it my Phoenix year. And it's like what a difference a year makes, because pretty much everything that I thought I lost, I've gained tenfold,
Yeah.
and kind of emerged out of it, even all the better.
Heck yeah. You got to see that strength that's been in reserves in different ways, right? And you got to actually process it and use it and see what you're capable of. I love that. That's amazing. So I one thing, I mean, that I have there's so much I want to share about, and I'm going to try to weave them into here, but you're in Florida. I think you've traveled lots of wonderful places. You continue to travel lots of wonderful places, but I love that you took what you have access to. And this is how I think the COVID season has looked like, right? We weren't able to just fly to Argentina or go here or do that early on, but we could heal and live and move our bodies and our minds when outside in nature. And so Florida, you shared a lot of the state and national parks. You did some great content there with all of these different hikes and adventures, kayaking. um, you've done so many cool things that you're right. I'm glad that your friend said, hey, you've got some real value here that you need to put out in the world, that everybody else needs to see. And so how wonderful. And look what it's turned into, all of these great platforms for you to make a difference. And you are like, that's just so cool. I mean, I love it. I did not set a timer on what we're doing. So, but I do want to, I want to know, um, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what are you most excited about right now? Like, what is that? I know you said, getting to that number just so you can have more freedom to do these things. Like, I get it. We can't dream when we're in survival mode. Like, that's what just how it works. And
Right.
so you're back in this great space. And that is, now you can really see even more vision, I bet, because you've built that confidence along the way, even during the hard times. And so like, what do you keep writing on your list? Like, that I want to make sure I'm doing, like, I want to make sure I go to blue. Like, where do you want to go?
Oh man, that is a never ending list, right? Huge on my list that I got to finally check off this summer was doing a road trip through Utah.
Awesome.
So
Oh
that was
yes.
amazing. But it's funny enough, your neck of the woods is really high on my list. I need to do the Pacific Northwest. Like, I need to do all these waterfalls
Yeah.
and the parks up there. I'm trying desperately to get to Maine next year, because I want to go to Acadia. I want to do Lobster Festival and all those kinds of fun things. I'm trying to, now Canada is opening back up. Banff was high on my list.
Oh,
That was one of my 2020 planned trips that I had to postpone.
mhm.
Tokyo was also the other trip that got canceled right at the beginning of the
Yeah.
pandemic. So I'm trying to replan that one. And I'm also really, really, really trying to get something on the continent and get to Africa soon. I am really, really hoping that's going to happen for 2022 if everything aligns. So those are probably the big ones, domestic and internationally, that I'm most looking forward to getting there. And then there's also one local one that's a few hours away from me. I want to do this. It's a snorkel, but it's with sharks off of Jupiter, Florida, off the coast. It's one of the things I wanted to do in my year of 40. Timing just hasn't worked, but technically I still got time. My birthday's in February, so I got a few months. And we'll see if I can squeeze it in there. But it'll happen for sure here exciting. Pretty soon. Yeah, nobody wants to do it with me. It was one of the things I really didn't want to do solo. But smart, yeah. Everyone is like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, fine, I'll do it by myself. So it's with the company, you know, it's not like I'm going to be alone. There'll be other people on the trip. Right. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Hopefully.
I think my husband would go with you. He would totally go. He would love to swim with the sharks. That's exciting. I love all the things that you have planned. And I mean, I'm just curious because I love to plan, you know, and so COVID has taught me how much I miss it, you know, and how much I really like it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, this is a big piece of who I am. So speaking of planning and speaking of being like you're super organized, you're super intentional, you're running all sorts of great things in the world right there. And tell me a little bit about how you organize, like how you look at, let's say, the trip dream plan. Do you have a calendar for that? Like how does that all work for you?
It is so funny that you think that I'm so organized and well planned. I'm glad it looks that way to the outside. Listen, I am the duck on top of the water who's furiously paddling beneath, and you just don't see it. I actually suck at that piece of it. What I'm great at is intention and envisioning what I want to do, right? And usually for me, it starts with a new Pinterest board is my go-to. And then I just go start looking up stuff and I just start pinning stuff every time I see something. So I'll have the links. And then when I'm finally ready to like put things into action, then, you know, I'm researching, I'm looking up things and I make a spreadsheet and I kind of have a list. I'll highlight a few and not a lot. Like when I say a few, like 2 to 3, I have to do these things type of thing. And then everything else is like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I would like to, but if it doesn't happen, I'm okay with that because what I found is if you leave room to just let the universe do its thing, like great things come to you, opportunities come to you, things you didn't even know about will come to you, or some, you know, you'll mention that you're going, and then people are going to tell you, oh, you should do this, you should go here, you should try this. And so I don't overplan my trips like that, which is hard for some people who travel with me because they really want this very
itinerary,
rigid, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, we're gonna get there at this time, we're gonna leave at this time, and we're staying here. Like those are the absolutes, and everything else you just gonna have to roll with it.
So are you hosting trips? Are you leading trips with groups? Tell us about that.
Well, my best friend and I had come together to start doing that. Our first trip was 2020. It was February of 2020. That was the last trip we had before to Asheville. And so we have put that on pause. We actually just met last week to kind of regroup and start to brainstorm and think about what this will look like and how we can bring this back. So we are looking forward to 2022 to possibly ramping that back up again. We would really like to, because people want to do it. You know, they think they want to travel like the Outdoorsy Diva. And I say think because it's like, You think you do, and then you get there, you're like, oh my God, you're freaking out, but you don't have any regrets. Like it just is gonna push you out of your comfort zone, which is what I loved about that first trip, taking a small group of women to Asheville. And it was everything that Outdoorsy Divas brand is. It was outdoorsy waterfall chasing and hiking, and then it was Diva because we had wine tastings and great meals and a chef and all that kind of stuff. And then we went um snow sledding.
Oh, cool.
And so it's like I am a complete walking oxymoron, and I love that. And I don't want people to feel like you have to be one or the other. Like you can meet all of your interests in one trip. You really can do that. And so just showing people who think, well, I don't know if I'm outdoorsy. You're probably more outdoorsy than you think you are. And so
when you're doing it with someone else, when you're trying it along,
Yeah.
partnering next door or next to somebody else, it's you start to learn more about yourself. I mean, that's why I love to take people fishing, is because they don't normally do that. And so there's a little taste of it, and they're not having to do it by themselves, even putting on their waders. They don't have to do that anything by themselves. But it's and when you have a partner you can trust, or a group of people that you can trust, that's when you're like, okay, I'll give it a try.
I finally got to try fly fishing this year. I got to check that one
pictures.
off.
I was so happy.
Yeah, I thought about you. Mammoth Lakes, California hosted me at the beginning of the summer before the Delta variant ruined our vaccinated fun. And that was one of the last trips I took before I had to go sit down.
Right.
And they were like, hey, how do you feel about, have you ever fly fished? I was like, I have not, but my friend Rachel has told me all about it. And because I talked to her, it's on my bucket list.
Yay!
And they were like, okay, we'll set that up for you. I mean, not only did I get to go fly fishing, but with like one of the renowned fly fishermen in the world.
Awesome.
Flint's amazing. And just, he has done this literally all over the globe, and so I got this guy all to myself, to take me to all of the places he likes to go. And he was so patient with me. And I see why you love it and why other people like it. It's different than just the regular fishing too. Even just the cadence of the different cast in itself is meditative. So yeah, I was like, I wished I lived closer to some safe fresh water. I will not be fly fishing. And in our canals down here, we've got gators. Can't do it.
I know you do. I've lived in Florida before. And I was a school teacher when I lived in Florida, and also like a crazy in between summer college person. And but I would fish the golf courses. And so I would take my fly rod, and one time I was fishing, and there was another pond. There was like a pond here, so I was fishing that, and then there was another pond over here. And so I just kind of walked with my rod, and so I'm casting, fishing this one pond, and then I was done with it. So I kind of carried my rod this way, and as I was walking over to this other pond, my fly goes right over the nose of an alligator that I had not seen. I did not see it when I was fishing right there. And I was just like, whoo. And so then all of a sudden I've got my rod straight up. I'm like, no, he's not doing anything to me, but I'm running on the golf course. I'm sure this was way before that, like our phones have videos, thank goodness. And, but I was the crazy woman running around with my rod tip high. And I just was like, I'm out of here. Like I didn't go fish that other pond. I just got totally spooked. I knew they were in there, but I thought I would scare them, and I was wrong.
They were waiting for whatever you caught to take it.
Yes. But I love, you've got great fly fishing in Florida. But I know in certain cases you've got water quality issues too that you want to be aware of as well. I mean, I mostly catch and release, but still, even that, you may not want to be handling certain water and just be around
Yeah.
certain water. But
Yeah.
because you're near Tampa, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So yeah, you've got good fish. I'm gonna come visit you someday. I will. Uh,
Listen, you need to come on down.
yeah, I am taking. I'll be messaging you before you know it because I just booked a flight. I'm gonna be heading to see my parents. My dad's having surgery, so I'm gonna go help with my mom in North Carolina. So this
Okay.
is a big deal because since COVID, I haven't flown anywhere.
Okay.
And so I need some good positive vibes from you.
I got you. I got you covered. I'm pretty good at it now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna it's gonna be fine, but I'm excited to kind of get back on the plane, right? That part would be good too. I mean, there's all sorts of other stuff going on, but part of that is I feel very grateful that I can get on a plane and go help my parents. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that. Um, Thank you so much for sharing today. And yeah, I mean, I didn't even talk about how much you've grown in these last few years. I think that's awesome. And then I love that you're this amazing photographer. And I will say, like, I was like, how the hell does she keep getting these amazing photos? I know, look at them, I love them, but of yourself. And then you did a post about how you do it, which was so good. Like, so like, oh, she's a normal human. She doesn't walk around with a professional photographer. Oh, like you explained it all. And I was like, oh, that makes total sense. This is awesome. Thank you for not thinking I can't relate to you, or anyone, because we do feel that way. Like, how in the world can she be building this up and have this professional photographer? Well, she's the professional photographer. She's the one making it happen. And yeah, you're probably getting up at dark 30 or staying up late when you want to go to bed and you're still dressed up and all the stuff. But where what do you think where do you think there is still a need right now for you and what in your mission to represent beautiful women of color in the outdoors? What do you think is still missing?
I mean, it still needs to become the norm.
Yeah.
Has it gotten better? It
Yeah.
has.
Good.
Can we see improvement? Sure, we can. But it just has to become a thing where it's no longer kind of oh wow, where
Surprise.
it's not a surprise anymore. It's just par for the course. It still has to be something that the brands have built into their marketing strategy, right?
Okay,
It
good.
still has to become intentional. We still have to close the gap in terms of how they interface with creators like myself in terms of pay and compensation. That still needs to be fair and done fairly across the board, because there's definitely disparities there. We see it all the time. So that those kinds of things just have to continue to get better. And it has they also have to be intentional about internally changing what their leadership looks like. Because if they continue to just have people in decision-making power who are white size men,
Yeah.
it's going to continue to look the same, right?
Right.
So they have to continue to be intentional about changing what that leadership looks like, putting money behind it, putting money into working with people who are on the ground doing the work for these programs, and to expose, the young people and kids and college kids to travel and adventure in the outdoors and things like that. So it's kind of it's making it part of their foundation that hasn't happened yet. And that's what we need to see versus the one-off kind of performative type of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the consistency is how we make a difference with everything that we do. So you're building that, you're a huge part of that. And that's still like, let's just help everybody else be consistent. Let's help everybody else see that and bring everything back up to where or not back up, let's get it up to where it needs to be.
It is. I mean, and I think the beauty though is 2 years ago, we couldn't even have the conversation
Yeah.
with them. There was not a listening ear on the other end of that. It wasn't a concern. It wasn't seen as something that they should care about. And so we're getting there, right? So now at least you can get a conversation. I can get a meeting, we can have the conversation. So just steadily hoping to see it, continue to get better. But it's nice to see, the changes and the impact that just a couple of years has made. So it's a good thing.
That's encouraging. Yeah, there's a lot more work to do, but I'm so glad, when there's people like you who are approachable and kind and real and sharing your strengths and sharing your experiences and sharing your heart, you're allowing that growth to happen within that space that needs improvement. So I think that's huge. I think it's when you come with an open heart, you're like, hey, let's just chat. Let's get that conversation going. And I'm so glad that that's improved throughout, because there's a lot to still need to be done, right? Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I hope that I have more than 5 people that watch this, because they're going to get such value out of hearing from you, checking you out, at Outdoorsy Diva on Instagram. And then also we will make sure we put all your other contacts for your blog, for your podcast, for your TV show, all of those things. We are just so excited. So I thank you. Thank you, friend.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It was so good to see you again and get to talk to you. It's like, it's not in person, but almost.
I know it will be. And yes, you will have to, Oregon is on your list, at least for part of your Pacific Northwest. We'll make it happen. That'd be wonderful. Okay, love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, you can find her on social media at Fly Fishing, 4 Health, and at Andras Outfitters. We'll see you next time.